The Republican Party seems to be in a civil war of sorts over the H1B program. Just why is a random alphanumeric visa program causing people like Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, President Trump, the literal president, and Vivek Ramaswamy, plus a bunch of random Twitter users to all have a collective meltdown? Just what is this about? And more importantly, what is the actual data behind this debate? So we're going to dig into it, try to give you guys some arguments so that when you go to your New Year's party, you could sound smarter than everyone else. Let's get into it. Okay, so this is a really strange story for a bunch of reasons, but mostly because Elon Musk has waded into the debate over the H1B program. Now, H1B is something that, well, Elon Musk has said, quote, "The reason I'm in America, along with so many critical people who built SpaceX, Tesla, and hundreds of other companies that made America strong, is because of H1B. He then adds, take a big step back and says a bunch of things that I can't repeat, which is apparently, I guess, some sort of quote from a movie. But again, nothing is more quintessentially Elon Musk than not quite being able to understand that you think you're quoting a movie being funny, but no one else knows it, and you just sound like an asshole. Now, this is, of course, the fact that you also have Vivek Ramaswamy weighing in on H1Bs, and he is a little bit more combative, saying that H1Bs were needed because, quote, American culture did not prioritize work ethic the way Indian culture does. He added Indian immigrants received nearly 3/4 of all H1B visas in 2023, according to USCIS data. And H1B allows companies to employ foreign workers. But this is sort of interesting. Ramaswamy added, quote, a culture that celebrates the prom queen over the math Olympiad champ or the jock over the valedictorian will not produce the best engineers, Ramaswamy wrote, prompting a strong response from Nikki Haley. Now, what is the H1B program exactly? Well, the program exists to grant to companies the ability to recruit globally and sponsor a visa for unique talent that to fill roles that they cannot fill in the States, right? And before we talk about some of the actual data around that, I wanted to mention, first off, if you are looking to crush it in the new year, maybe at work, but maybe in the gym, you want to definitely get a secret weapon in your pocket. That's why I created Strike Gum. Obviously, veteran owned. We're made in the USA, just out in Denver, and we have 90 milligrams of caffeine in each piece, right? So if you're somebody who's an energy drink aficionado, you know that each piece of this gum contains an energy drink's worth of caffeine. But with zero sugar, it'll keep you on your New Year's diet. So trust me, it's the secret weapon you need. Plus, for the next day until 2025, we've got a holiday sale, 20% off site-wide and free shipping on 2 or more 5-packs. So check it out at strikegum.com, or you can get it on Amazon, but the deal is only going to be on Strike Gum. The link's in the description. Okay, so let's talk about some of the data, right? And like the reality of this. So let's take a look at first. The U.S. has a nice way to measure if American culture is really broken around work, right? Because I think that's one of the first and most important points here. And the answer seems to be pretty decisively no. Here's a chart from the Fed that shows productivity. This is GDP or the amount of goods and services produced per hour worked in the United States since 1947, right? And you can see in 1947 that number was about a 22. Right now, it is increased by about 5-fold. It's 114. And what's fascinating is that if you look at the actual data, that the U.S. has actually been tremendously productive, right? You can see in 2020, remember, it's per hour work. So a lot of people were not working in 2020. So labor artificially looked very, very unproductive. But what's fascinating is that basically, if you looked at U.S. labor productivity in about 2017, you could see that in the last really just 7 years, we've had a 15% increase in U.S. labor productivity. So U.S. culture has actually never been more productive, and it's growing more productive at a faster rate. In fact, I think I can see the percentage change. You can see here that here's the zero line. Here's where American workers would grow less productive. And you can see that obviously there's this whiplash as sort of seasonal workers come in and out. But you notice we are overwhelmingly positive. So Americans have the largest economy in the world with one of the highest GDPs per capita, and our workers continue to get more and more productive, right? That itself is kind of insane. In fact, you can see here in the mid 80s, it looked like American workers were actually starting to trend negative, where there was years where they actually appeared to grow less productive. But you could see that trend has remained steadily positive quarter after quarter, in spite of some of this things like inflation, right? So this should tell you right there that the American culture broken meme is just that. But let's talk about other countries. How do we stack up against other countries? Well, we can do it. Here's a list of OECD countries ranked by labor productivity in 2022, right? And so when we sort by GDP per hour worked, you can see that the US, we are not number one, but again, the data itself gets a little more nuanced because I want to point things out. About of these 10 countries that sit ahead of us, 3 of them are tax havens. And that's Ireland, Luxembourg, and Switzerland. And the reason those artificially look like very productive countries is because companies that engage in multinational business are often headquartered in these regions. In Luxembourg, or for tax purposes, report their income that's earned across the globe in these countries. And so what'll happen is they'll say, wow, Ireland, your company, Amazon.com, is incredibly productive. You're one of the most productive companies in Ireland. Well, they're not productive in Ireland. They're productive all over the globe, and then they report the income in Ireland for tax purposes. So these tax shelter countries, right? Do you think people in Luxembourg are just like working in the lithium mines, just like cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha? No, of course not, right? They're obviously running tax havens, and that's 3 of these countries. I want to point out, too, that a country like Norway is both a highly productive Nordic country, but it also has about 20% of its GDP coming from a state-run oil company where essentially they're just pulling money out of the ground. And so when you exclude those, you see that the United States is only beaten by a handful of Nordic countries in terms of GDP per hour worked. And all of these, again, are small Nordic countries. But what you may notice who's not on this list is India. In fact, when we look at GDP per hour worked, you see again here done by the International Labor Organization with slightly updated year, right? It's 2023. You see the same thing. You see the tax havens sitting at the very top of the list. You see a country like Singapore, which is, again, a highly productive city-state. You see also Guyana, another kind of a small population with a large oil productivity sitting above us. But again, United States comfortably in the top 10. But what about Vivek Ramaswamy's love of Indian culture? India, a hardworking, diligent place that has literally the bottom worker productivity in the entire world. To give you an idea, there are more productive workers in Angola, in Bolivia, in Moldova, right? In Jamaica, an island paradise known for its diligent work, all right? I'm joking. Jamaica's the most chill place, right? It's literally like a meme how chill Jamaicans are. So you can see that of the 181 countries listed in total, India sits comfortably in the 126th spot. So to sit there and say Indian culture is about working hard and American culture is about lazy is just pretty disingenuous. But here's the real question. Is the H1B program really affecting the salaries of American workers? That answer also appears to be no. Because why? Because every year there is a paltry 65,000 H1Bs issued to new workers. There's another 20,000 that are granted to university graduates who get a year of H1B to find work, right? So that they can, help pay the taxpayer back for their subsidized education. But let's look at what percentage of the U.S. labor force is H1B visa. We know that the U.S. labor force is about 168 million people. Nope, this is actually completely idiotic. This is an AI. This is total AI trash. There you go. 168 million civilians, right? They don't include military members in the labor force because they're they're not really laboring in the conventional sense. So let's take a look. What's the math say? 80,000 H1Bs a year divided by 168 million US workers, giving us a total of less than 0. In fact, 4.7 times raised to the e negative 4 is literally mathematical notation for a number so small that it is not 1%. It is not 1/10 of 1%. It is not 1,000th of a percent. It is 1/10,000th of a percent. So you have to ask yourself, why is this even an issue among leaders? Now, obviously, there's a lot of these debates happening, and there's a lot of these visas that are given to tech companies. But again, the argument that Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy and other tech entrepreneurs are raising, they say, well, guys, it's impossible to find U.S. engineers. That's something they've all been tweeting about. It's so hard to find a talented, super capable engineer. But when we look, if that were true, why are all these tech companies in 2024 doing massive layoffs, including tens of thousands of workers at Tesla? Why is Tesla desperate for engineers, but at the same time firing large swaths of their people, right? Particularly people that, remember, were in Tesla in the years leading up to 2024. Tesla became one of the greatest companies, one of the greatest American car companies in a generation. And so why then, if they have this secret sauce, this engineers, and they have no marketing department, so they have all these engineers, and they built something incredible, and now Elon Musk is turning around and firing them and saying, we don't have any talent. It's really hard to believe that sort of thing. And it's hard to believe it with all of these tech companies because so many of them are global leaders. Again, what is the Indian equivalent of Google? There isn't one, right? What is the Indian equivalent of NVIDIA? There isn't one. There's a reason these companies are headquartered in the United States, and they're founded by Americans, and they're run by Americans. It's because America has the special sauce. I don't know what else to tell you. In fact, 60% of the largest companies that have emerged in the last 50 years are American. So this is, again, one of those things that tells me, here you go, you can see the layoffs since COVID-19, right? There was obviously the pre-COVID layoffs, and then a big spike in layoffs peaking in 2023 and continuing into 2024. So it's hard for me to take seriously this entire debate because it's about a trivially small number of visa holders in a niche industry. And when I looked at the open H-1B visa jobs, overwhelmingly, what I saw were, a lot of tech jobs for sure. But the other category was manual labor or like semi-skilled work in very rural areas where Americans with college degrees and technical skills don't want to live, right? Grand Rapids, South Dakota, northern Minneapolis, and you also had physicians, and the physicians is their own animal. The American education system by design, doesn't produce enough physicians to keep the country staffed with medicine. It's one of the reasons that we have so very few. And wait times are always so long for specialists. It's because it's deliberately done by, in part, the American Medical Association to ensure that there's always a tight supply of doctors and salaries always remain really high. This is something that a lot of other countries don't deal with. And so part of the way hospitals try to solve this is to find physicians who have graduated from their country's medical program and bring them into the U.S. program. Of course, it's got its own sort of fraught stuff about having to do their own residencies, et cetera. But nonetheless, that is another category that you see these H-1B applicants come from. Anyway, guys, that is all I had. Hit that subscribe button. It makes a difference. Thanks to our Colonel tier members like James Drilling, Steve Moran, Doug Beck, Alan Lutson, Bastian Himling, Brian Kelly, Del McCombs, James Ola, Henry Roussier, all of our Lieutenant tier members. I couldn't do this without you guys. You guys are the ones who make this whole thing possible. And I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.